Day 709. Monday, August 4th. Ezra 4:7-23. Ezra 4:7-23 NKJV. In the days of Artaxerxes also, Bishlam, Mithridath, Tabal and the rest of their companions wrote to Artaxerxes king of Persia, and the letter was written in Aramaic script, and translated into the Aramaic language. Rehum the commander, and Shimshai the scribe, wrote a letter against Jerusalem to King Artaxerxes in this fashion, from Rehum the commander, Shimshai the scribe, and the rest of their companions, representatives of the Danites, the Apharsachchites, the Tarpelites, the people of Persia and Erech and Babylon and Shushan, the Dehavites, the Elamites, and the rest of the nations whom the great and noble Osnappar took captive and settled in the cities of Samaria and the remainder beyond the river, and so forth. This is a copy of the letter that they sent him. To King Artaxerxes from your servants, the men of the region beyond the river and so forth, let it be known to the king that the Jews who came up from you have come to us at Jerusalem, and are building the rebellious and evil city, and are finishing its walls and repairing the foundations. Let it now be known to the king that, if this city is built and the walls completed, they will not pay tax, tribute, or custom, and the king's treasury will be diminished. Now because we receive support from the palace, it was not proper for us to see the king's dishonor. Therefore we have sent and informed the king, that search may be made in the book of the records of your fathers, and you will find in the book of the records and know that this city is a rebellious city, harmful to kings and provinces, and that they have incited sedition within the city in former times, for which cause this city was destroyed. We inform the king that if this city is rebuilt and its walls are completed, the result will be that you will have no dominion beyond the river. The king sent an answer, to Rehum the commander, to Shimshai the scribe, to the rest of their companions who dwell in Samaria, and to the remainder beyond the river, peace and so forth. The letter which you sent to us has been clearly read before me. And I gave the command, and a search has been made, and it was found that this city in former times has revolted against kings, and rebellion and sedition have been fostered in it. There have also been mighty kings over Jerusalem, who have ruled over all the region beyond the river, and tax, tribute, and custom were paid to them. Now give the command to make these men cease, that this city may not be built until the command is given by me. Take heed now that you do not fail to do this. Why should damage increase to the hurt of the kings? Now when the copy of King Artaxerxes' letter was read before Rehum, Shimshai the scribe, and their companions, they went up in haste to Jerusalem against the Jews, and by force of arms made them cease. Daily Deep Dive, the UCG reading plan states, we read this passage earlier and following the arrangement order of the book of Ezra, because of a widespread belief that the book is written entirely in chronological order, making the Artaxerxes mentioned in this passage the same as the ruler known to history as the impostor King Galmata, also known as Pseudo-Smerdis, who preceded Darius the Great. However, as explained earlier in the Beyond Today Bible commentary on this passage, the majority view sees the Artaxerxes in this passage as the Persian emperor known to history as Artaxerxes I Longimanus, the king who issued the decree allowing Ezra to lead a group of Jewish exiles to Jerusalem. This seems more likely. See earlier commentary on this passage, which is why we are reviewing this section here and considering some other reasons for this conclusion. The Samaritans resisting the Jews of Judea write to Artaxerxes verses 7-16, complaining about the building up of the city walls and foundations of Jerusalem verse 12. There is no corroborating reason to believe the city fortifications were built up under those of the first Jewish return from Babylon under Zerubbabel. Cyrus's decree had permitted them to rebuild the temple, not the city. Again, it seems more likely that the rebuilding referred to in the letter was done by those who returned with Ezra in the days of Artaxerxes I. Artaxerxes' decree to Ezra had said nothing specific about rebuilding the wall or city. See Ezra 7:12-26. However, beyond the provision for religious offerings and temple refurbishment, the emperor did say, "And whatever seems good to you and your brethren to do with the rest of the silver and the gold, do it according to the will of your God." Verse 18. Not long after arriving in Judea, Ezra says of God, He extended mercy to us in the sight of the kings of Persia, to revive us, to repair the house of our God, to rebuild its ruins, and to give us a wall in Judah and Jerusalem. Ezra 9:9. Most people see this last phrase as a figurative expression of God's protection, as no literal wall had yet been built, but neither was the temple refurbishment complete in so short a time. This must all speak of what God had allowed the Jewish exiles to come to do, not of what they had already accomplished. Consider also that Artaxerxes' decree of 457 BC appears to be the starting point of the 70 weeks prophecy of Daniel 9, the fulfillment of which was to commence with the command to rebuild not merely the temple, but Jerusalem itself. Verse 25, see the Beyond Today Bible commentary on Daniel 9. Moreover, as we will soon read, Nehemiah is not long afterward grieved over Jerusalem's wall being broken down, and the city gates burned, Nehemiah 1:3, these developments seeming to concern recent events, rather than the Babylonian destruction, more than 140 years before. Given all this, it appears that Ezra must have interpreted Artaxerxes' decree as allowing for the refortification of the city, as indeed it implicitly had. And so at some point it seems likely that Ezra and the returned exiles began on that project. Yet perhaps the fact that Artaxerxes' decree had not explicitly mentioned the rebuilding of the city defenses gave the Samaritan resistance what they saw as a window of opportunity to bring an accusation against the Jews. Reminiscent of a modern legal challenge, the Samaritans saw and exploited a loophole in the initial decree. The result was a legal injunction that stopped the reconstruction project, and there were other factors at work that could explain why Artaxerxes, who had himself decreed the Jewish return and entrusted great authority to Ezra, would now heed such accusations and order the rebuilding stopped. See Ezra 4:17-22. Recall from the Beyond Today Bible commentary on Ezra 7 that Egypt had rebelled against Persian authority by allying with the Greeks. Artaxerxes had sent his brother-in-law Megabyzus, governor of Syria and Palestine, to wage war against Egypt to bring it back into submission to Persia, which was accomplished in 456 BC. It seems likely that the sending of Ezra and his company to Judea the year before this was intended to strengthen loyalty to Persia in that region prior to the attack on Egypt. But a few years later, things changed dramatically in the region. After Megabyzus, the Syrian governor, had subdued Egypt, he took the Greek and Egyptian commanders with him to Susa, the Persian capital called Shushan in Scripture, under promise of protection there. For several years the promise was kept, but in 449 Amestris, the widow of Xerxes and queen mother, who was possibly the Vashti of the Book of Esther, demanded their execution. The fulfillment of her demands so infuriated Megabyzus that he fled Susa, returned to Syria, and from there declared the independence of the Trans-Euphratean satrapy, of which Judea was part. He had sufficient following to repel at least 2 campaigns against him. Eugene Merrill, Kingdom of Priests, p. 508. This could well explain why Artaxerxes would now be suspicious of Judean loyalty to Persia. It was now part of a rebellious satrapy, and the refortification of Jerusalem could have played into the emperor's fears. He orders the Samaritans, who have professed loyalty to him by their letter, to see to it that the refortification is halted, and this they do, by military force. Verse 23. Yet the king leaves open the possibility of future rebuilding. 4:21, helping to set the stage for the book of Nehemiah. End.